All right, so I want you to let me know if you can see my screen now. Yeah, so let me know in the chats. Okay, all right, thank you. So basically, this session is going to be, short, and yeah, because the tool is not really so complex to use. All you have to do is, understand the basics at least. Diagrams.net is a diagramming tool, mostly used by engineers though, but, I have a bunch of fellows who also use this for for creating a business process diagrams. And I think that is where you might want to use it at times. So for example, we have something called a product flow diagram. I have a link here and I will share that with you on the server in the room. I also have 5 other diagrams here from this website, departmentofproduct.com. And you see we have swim lanes for businesses, of course, right? Trying to understand the interaction between the customer, sales, management, and the credit department. We have the processes, of course, process diagrams. So you try to map out the process probably during performing a checkout action on a mobile application or a website. So most times as product managers, you are expected to come up with, workflows. And of course, it's always easy when you are able to come up with a diagram for that, because people definitely would be able to relate to diagrams, rather than reading a bunch of documentations all the time. So diagrams are very good ways to explain things in detail, and you are able to structure your diagram in a way that the users will be able to follow through on that diagram. So when I mean users, I'm referring to probably your teammates. It can be the engineers, they can be designers, they can be executive level employees as well. So so you see we have user journeys, and we also have this is called emotion mapping. We have decision trees. Some of them look complex, but at the end of the day, they are not that complex. So we have a bunch of diagrams that you definitely want to use, that you definitely want to come up with, as a product manager. So I will share this website with you. But this is the tool we're going to be using, called diagrams.net. And basically diagrams.net, has a web app and also a desktop app. So all you have to do to download the desktop app is just click on download, and you can click on start now, to start using it. You don't necessarily need to register or log in. You see we have a bunch of companies also using these tools to work on their processes, right? And one amazing thing about this tool is you can actually embed it on the web, or even embed it in Notion, embed it in a variety of ways, in such a way that you can share with your teammates or share with a couple of other people. So I'm going to click on start, and you see this is currently opening on the web, right? So you see I have app.diagrams.net, and the first thing it's going to ask me right now is, how do I want to, store this item? I already have, my GitHub account connected, so I'm going to remove it, and this is what you will see. If you open this on your end, this is what you will see. So it's asking you, how do you want to save this diagram you're creating? Do you want to save it on GitLab or GitHub for developers, or you want to save it on your Dropbox, right? Which is a storage mechanism on the web, or you want to save it on Google Drive, which I believe you know, OneDrive from Microsoft, or you want to save it on your laptop or your desktop, right? So I'm going to click on the device. I'm going to say create a new diagram. And then this is what you have. You have a straightforward screen with a bunch of templates. So if you're part of the mirror class, you would also remember that we had a bunch of templates to play around with, right? So you see we have a whole lot of templates for swim lane diagrams, organizational charts, for sequence diagrams. These are basically, most of them are engineering diagrams though, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to maybe, let's see. So this is a UML, and under the UML, of course, we have a lot of samples. I'm going to select a sample, a very simple example here, after which I would delete it, and then we'll create something from scratch, right? So I'm trying to select something that works for businesses, so you can, follow through with me. So let us use this for example. I'll say create. So let's call this, let's just call it business diagram. I think business diagram. Okay. All right, so you see we have, it's asking us to download the desktop app. I already have it though, but I'm just trying to show you that you can use it on the web, right? So you see right now, this is a very simple business diagram. You're just trying to show, you know, like a kind of like a progressive growth level in your organization. So of course, you can always double click to edit some of this text. You know, all I have to do is double click. I can edit them, even you know, the values I have for 2021, 2020, you can definitely edit them by just double clicking. And these are, you know, objects, and I will show you how to grab some of those objects from here real quick. So we are working with a template right now. I'm going to take off these templates by just selecting everything. You see, I can select everything by simply dragging the entire space. And of course, we have our working area, which is, you know, more like an artboard, you know, kind of. And yeah, this view can be adjusted in terms of, you know, the settings. You see, we have the view properties here. Before we get there, I would want to first talk about some of the things we have here. I'm not going to explain every single item, you know, in detail, but I will just at least navigate through the menu items. So first off, we have the file menu, which is basically where you perform a couple of actions as regards opening a file, right? Or, you know, probably saving a file, you know, sharing that file. So you can share if you have that file saved on Google Drive or Dropbox. You can rename your file, you can make a copy or duplicate, right? You can import a new file. You can publish a file, which is or yeah, I would call it a diagram, right? So you can publish a diagram, you know, it will give you a link, and of course you can share that link with other people and they will be able to preview that particular diagram, right? Yeah, so you can create a new library. Basically, you're trying to create like, you're trying to create a library from a document or a diagram you've worked on, where you are able to, you know, have a bunch of components that you can then reuse when that library is shared with someone else or sent to someone else. So you can also open a library yeah, so from the page setup, you can, yes, customize the page. You can adjust the size of your page if you want something bigger or smaller. You can set a background, you know, for the grid, and you can even add an image to the background. And basically, we're talking about the background right here because that is our page. Okay, so the next option here, edit, of course, you know, undo, redo, you know, when you make some mistakes, you know, cut, right? When you make some mistakes, you can always revert to the old, you know, the old thing you had there with Control Z and Control Y, or maybe Command Shift Z and Command Z. This is for the shortcuts you're seeing here basically is because I'm using a MacBook. If you're using a Windows machine, you will definitely see Control instead of Command. Cut and copy, so you know some of these properties already. I believe some of you already understand. I mean, if you are versatile with Microsoft, you know, packages, you already know most of these commands. I believe so. Find and replace, and I think the most important thing I would explain to you, because some of these things are, you know, things you can definitely navigate. Maybe like if you want to view the outline of your design. So let me show you an example. I just clicked on this item, rectangle, and I have a rectangle, right? So let's assume we have 3 rectangles. I was able to duplicate by simply using Control D. So it's very simple for you to, you know, make sure you are able to see every single outline and every single layer, you know, the views, right? So you're able to see the views. So if I decide to expand this, you see, we're able to use this to at least, you know, kind of like glance through the section that we're currently working on, right? So more like a min map. That's what it's called, a min map. But talking about layers, you can actually create multiple layers. We won't be talking about this in this session because it's a way to actually, you know, create create interactive components, but that is going to be very complex for you right now. So hopefully in the future we'll have a different session to explore that. But for now, you know, using the arrange menu, you can align things properly, like bring items to front, send to back, you know. So let's assume we have these items looking like this, you know, with align, under the arrange menu with align, we can, you know, left align, you see everything is aligned, right? So you can also do right align, center align, and stuff like that. Yeah, so down to the extras, you can set themes, I think that's one of the most important thing here, adjusting your theme, to your preference, right? So explore the menu options, and let's just talk about the components we have here. So under the general components, you see we can create a bunch of items. So like, this is the oval shape, this is a decision shape, which is the diamond shape, of course. This is a parallelogram, which is also used to denote processes. We'll definitely talk about some of these things when it comes to understanding flowcharts. As PMs, you don't necessarily need to follow, this, except you're working on a diagram that requires you to understand the flowchart. But of course, you can represent most of the things you want to represent with rectangles and circles and all that. Yeah. So, but the idea is, you have a bunch of. Please turn off your camera. You have a bunch of tools or components that you can use when you need them, right? So if I create a rectangle here, and I have a different rectangle and I want to connect these rectangles, all I have to do is click on a specific item, and you see I am able to, I have this nodes you're seeing around here. So yeah, I can just drag that node and connect to a different item, right? So it's not a big deal. It's quite easy to understand. And of course, you can also change the type of arrow you want to use by simply clicking on this drop down right here, and adjusting it to your preference or to your taste. So now you see the arrow looks a bit different, right? And yeah, you can keep making those adjustments. If you want something really curvy, you can definitely get something like that. I think right here, okay? So yeah, you can definitely get, something like that. So yeah, go ahead and explore that as well. The connection is quite easy. All you have to do is click on a specific item and then you can connect, just like this. And I hope you understand that. Then you can always double click to add some text like this, or let's just call this process 1, right? And then we can call this process 2. Okay, so we're moving, our flow diagram right here is just moving from process 1 to process 2. Maybe you want to add a description. So process 1, probably process 1. Let's say this involves, making the initial purchase using the scanner app, or using the product scanner app. Okay, and probably process 2. I'm just going to duplicate this using Control D or Command D, and I'll say process 2. So let's just say scan products, and let's say the process 2 would be make payments, right? Okay, so this involves making the necessary payments, okay, using the payments app. Okay, so I believe you get the point. So you are able to make this kind of diagrams easily. You don't necessarily need to, I mean, the connection is quite simple. I'm sure you saw how the connection was simple. So I'm going to duplicate this, and let's say we have process 3 right now. Let me zoom in. And then what we can also do is, come up with this, right? So you see we have process 3. Let's adjust this, okay? So now you have process 1, process 2, process 3. The moment you go out of the space, the grid is adjusted automatically, right? And I think this is nice. So you can always adjust this, and everything will be adjusted automatically. So yeah, you can get more tools, right? If you click on miscellaneous, you see you have a bunch of other, controls. But we even have, yeah, click on advanced. You see we have more, and we have a lot of other items that are not here. So you just have to click on more shapes, and then you see a bunch of them, right? We have a lot of shapes here. So I can turn them on, for now they are turned off. So yeah, I can turn them on. So an example is BPMN. BPMN is something you are going to probably get to use, and it means a business process model notation. So if I turn that on, now I have BPMN controls. So you see when I click on the general item, I can basically create what we call a pool, with multiple swim lanes, right? A pool with different lanes, and we can decide to move the processes, into into those lanes, right? You know, from step 1, step 2, step 3, you can say, okay, lane 1 is for the customer, you know, so you can call this customer. That is not how to spell customer. Okay, you can call this maybe salesman, I don't know. And finally, you can call this organization. So you can say we have 3 parties in this business process. The customer makes the payment, or the customer picks the item, you know, the salesman makes the payment, probably like a POS kind of stuff. And then at the end of the day, the organization, you know, would provide service. I don't know. Yeah, provide service. So, you know, that kind of stuff, you know, we're able to just map out a very simple process, though this is not correct. I mean, these are not the shapes you would want to use in a BPMN diagram. Probably we'll talk about that in a later time, but I believe you get the point. I'm not teaching you BPMN, right? I'm just showing you what some things you can do, you know, some of the shapes and some of the shapes you can get from here. We'll definitely, you know, get to the point where we'll talk about BPMN in the future. I have a bunch of examples that I've worked on with my team, but that is not the point here. So yeah, you can always click on more shapes and, you know, add even more diagrams, right? I can turn on Android, you know, C4. C4 is basically for architecture, AWS, which is a cloud service. So you see both engineers, designers, product managers. You can come up with wireframes, you know, if I turn on the Android stuff. And of course, you know, even as a PMs, definitely at some point you also want to work on a wireframe for a product, you know, a very quick sketch. And yeah, so you can use this tool, right? So I click on Android. I'm able to quickly bring in like an Android frame, right? So I don't need to design the stuff from scratch, even down to, you know, bringing in, you know, like input fields and those kind of stuff, loading spinner like the progress bar. So the idea is you have a tool for, you know, doing those stuffs and it's working right on the web browser. Yeah, so that is what we get here. So you have to really explore this to be you know, very conversant with it. You have to explore some of the properties and yeah, so I think this is fine. But basically, when you right click, you have a bunch of properties as well. Like you can delete, cut, copy, you know, duplicate. You can send this item to front, to back, you know, and there are other bunch of things you can do. Remember that every single object or element, you know, has a set of properties on the other side, right? It's right here. So yeah, sorry, okay, so one thing you can do with the properties, of course, is to style. So I can choose to change the style of some of these items. You see the way I'm changing the style by just selecting the lane. I selected this lane and I can change the style right here. Same apply to this object. You know, I can select and just adjust, you know, the properties. Of course, you can have more colors, you know. Most of them are just, you know, predefined. So when you select a dark color, it changes the text to white, which is smart. Yeah, and of course, that is for the style. Under the style as well, you can, you know, set this to be filled. You can apply a gradient, you know, just basic design stuff. You can change the type of line if you want it to be dashed, right? So these are the types of line we have there. You can, you know, set an opacity, which is basically trying to make it transparent to some level, to some certain extent. You can add some kind of you know, predefined samples, like making this have kind of a glassy feeling, you know, making it look like a sketch, giving it a shadow, or making the border rounded, you know, where you have something like this. These are just you know, styles, right? So you can definitely check them out. You can also, you know, edit the property of the text within the object itself. So this is a text property. You can, you know, set the alignment, make it bold, you know, italicized, underlined, you know, stuff like that. Change the text direction if you want to. Set the font size, you know, background if you want the text item to have a background, border color if you want it to have a border color, you know, so stuff like that. I think and back to arrange, you know, you do the to back to front and those kind of stuff, which is, you know, also has to do with alignment. So you can definitely do a lot with this tool. And yeah, if you probably want a dark theme, you can always adjust that using this option here. So you can always adjust that to light and dark. I most times work with the dark theme, but yeah, so for today, I think, yeah, you can see you can do that from here. This is also to give yourself that full screen view and remove all those items to avoid distraction. Maybe you're trying to do some sort of presentation, right? So you can definitely do that from here. And at the end of the day, you can share. Remember, I said you can share if these items are stored on Google Drive or OneDrive, so that when someone clicks on the link or grabs the link, they will be able to preview this as well because it's currently on your Google Drive or your OneDrive, or even your Dropbox. So yeah, and that is it for this tool. So you can have multiple pages, right? You can create multiple pages right here. You can delete the ones you no longer need. If you download this application, it's similar. So this is it right here, Drawio, right? I have it right here. So it runs as a desktop app. Most people would prefer using the desktop application. I personally love using a desktop application because I think it has a more native feel. And yeah, so this is something I was creating. So I think it's saved as a draft. I'm going to discard it because I no longer need it. I have multiple drafts. So you see, I was able to create this diagram. I think I was having a meeting with a client, and I was able to create this diagram on the call just to map out what we were trying to explain to the client. So let's discard this as well. I no longer need that. I'm going to open a sample diagram I have here. So let's go to, I think I have that under systems design, architecture, decision record. Let's see, diagrams. Okay, so I think those diagrams are kind of architectural diagrams. Okay, so I think I was working on a chatbot implementation, just kind of like a prototype to explain a process to an organization, and this was what we came up with. Something quite simple, but has that flow of making the company understand how the users would interact with the chatbot. By sending a message, and then the message would come into the of course through the interface, maybe like a device or something, a mobile app or a website, and then we have natural language processing happening on the background, and it's able to pass those detail. You see, we have natural language generation as well. It's able to process those detail and generate response, right? Of course, from this engine, right? And at the end of the day, after generating the response, the message and the response will also be saved on a database that we call Hadoop. And then, over the API, we can grab more details there. We can consume, we can have kind of like a data lake or a database, like processing this data and even trying to make the experience of the chatbot even more interesting. So this is another example. This is kind of like the flow chart of this same, diagram I just explained to you. So yeah, and I think we're really able to explain in detail, what they would get at the end of the day. So you don't necessarily need to understand the diagram, but I'm just showing you, what I've been able to use this for. And of course, the company would, or the client would prefer, I don't think it works on iPhone. So you have to get a laptop for this. I don't think it has an iPhone app. I'm not sure, maybe you can check. So that was just an example. We have other examples that I think I'll show you one right now. So this was an ERP, just a very simple map to show the various parts of the ERP application. ERP means Enterprise Resource Planning software. And you see under the ERP software is kind of like a combination of multiple softwares, right? We have the supply chain management software, the human resource management tool, quality control tool, inventory. So these are also departments that are able to use a single tool, which is ERP tool, right, to manage the enterprise or the organization. So ERP tools are, much needed for a bunch of organizations, to ensure that everything functions properly and everyone is in sync, within that organization. So I have a bunch of other diagrams I've worked on, just to explain to customers, because I think coming up with processes is always nice, right? You see, this is an example of an architectural diagram I worked on. Something very simple, just to explain the process or the various parts of an implementation, which was running on AWS. A simple WordPress site, with with a load balancer and multiple IPs, with a single database and what we call a storage bucket. So this is basically, a small architecture to manage an e-commerce, clothing sites. And yeah, so I have a bunch of others, business model canvas. So this is, of course, a simple business model Canva template. I believe it's a template, right? So this is a template. You can come up with this, and of course, you can present this to your company or to the organization with this tool as well. I think this is the template that is part of this tool, so you can always get it from the template section of this tool. Yeah, let's see. There is one that I was trying to show you, especially. Okay, no, not here. So I think we have, I have one. Let's see. All right, so this was basically a process flow diagram for, yeah, this is basically a process flow diagram, for, I think it's for a payment solution, right? For a simple payment solution. Yeah, but I don't think I would really, there's no need, to explain this in detail. But this, what you're seeing here is something I worked on with a friend he actually, I think he is a PM, right? He's a PM. And we worked on this together for a real solution that is currently being used by an organization. So that is really why I'm not going to go into details on that. But some of the diagrams that I have in there, are basically used by some organizations. So I believe you understand and you get, what I'm trying to show you, the possibilities of using this kind of tool within any organization, because they would definitely, need to work with, diagrams. There are complex diagrams that you would want to create. This is the tool we're going to be using most times for creating diagrams. And when I give you some kind of tasks, I expect you to use this tool, or you can also choose to use Miro, but I think this is the preferred one because this is very dynamic, right? And you can do a bunch of things in here, like, and it's totally free. You don't even need to have an account, to use the tool. It's completely free. You can use it online. You can use it offline. You can embed your implementations in Notion, in a web page. You can share with your team, right? So it's very flexible. And yeah, so I think that should be all for my presentation. If you have any question as regards what I've said so far, you go ahead and ask me, and we'll spend the next 10 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes taking questions. All right, so I'm currently looking at the chat. If you have more questions within the next 5 minutes to 10 minutes, you can drop your questions. But if you don't have any questions, I think that will be all for this session. So always remember to download the app. All you have to do is go down to diagrams.net and click on download, or you click on start to use the app on the internet, right? To use it from your browser. So go ahead and ask your questions. And all right.